Marcus had always been the overlooked son in a family that worshipped at the altar of traditional success. At 30, the nurse anesthetist had fought tooth and nail for every achievement, while his 28-year-old brother David, a software engineer, effortlessly basked in the golden glow of parental approval. The journey hadn't been easy for Marcus. When he first announced his intention to become a nurse, the family's reaction was swift and cutting. "That's a woman's profession," his father had said dismissively, barely looking up from his newspaper. His mother had sighed dramatically, asking why he couldn't pursue something more respectable like his brother's computer science degree. The words stung, but Marcus pressed forward, driven by a passion for healthcare that no amount of family disapproval could extinguish. Years of grueling nursing school followed, then the even more demanding CRNA program. While David coasted through college with family financial support and constant encouragement, Marcus worked double shifts to pay his way through school. Every late night studying anesthesia protocols, every clinical rotation where he held someone's life in his hands, every moment of self-doubt when his family's voices echoed in his head. It all culminated in finally paying off his student loans the previous year, a milestone that barely registered a congratulations from his parents. The house represented everything Marcus had worked for. Nestled in an upscale neighborhood, it was a testament to years of sacrifice and determination. The crown jewel was his den, a sophisticated space with rich mahogany furniture, a state-of-the-art entertainment system, original artwork on the walls, and floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with medical texts and leather-bound classics. It was the kind of room that spoke of success, stability, and refined taste. When Marcus invited his family for the housewarming, he simply wanted to share his achievement with the people who mattered most. He had imagined his parents finally showing pride in what he'd accomplished, perhaps his brother offering genuine congratulations. Instead, the moment they stepped into his den, an uncomfortable silence fell over the group. His mother's eyes widened as she took in the expensive furnishings. His father stood frozen, clearly calculating the cost of everything he saw. But it was David's reaction that cut the deepest, his face contorted with a mixture of shock, confusion, and unmistakable jealousy as he processed what his just-a-nurse brother had achieved. "How can you afford all this?" David blurted out, his voice carrying an edge of accusation rather than curiosity. "I mean, you're just a nurse." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Marcus felt the familiar sting of being diminished, reduced to just anything. His parents, rather than defending their son's accomplishments, began joining the speculation with uncomfortable enthusiasm. "Well, nurses don't usually make this kind of money," his mother said, her tone suggesting something improper must be happening. His father nodded, adding, "David's in tech, that's where the real money is these days." David, emboldened by his parents' support, began what could only be described as a public breakdown disguised as superiority. "I don't understand this," he announced to the room full of relatives. "I'm a software engineer. I went to a better school, I have a more important job, I'm smarter than him in every aspect. I deserve better wages than someone who's just a nurse." The entitled petulance in his voice was stunning. Here was the golden child, throwing a tantrum because his carefully constructed worldview was crumbling. The brother who had never faced real struggle, never been dismissed or underestimated, couldn't comprehend that his path might not be the only one leading to success. Marcus felt 20 years of frustration boiling over. The constant dismissals, the assumption that his career was somehow lesser, the way his family had never bothered to understand what he actually did, it all reached a breaking point in that beautifully appointed den. "Google it," Marcus said quietly, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside. "Look up the average hourly wage of a nurse anesthetist." The room fell silent as several relatives pulled out their phones. Marcus watched their faces change as the numbers appeared on their screens, figures that often exceeded $80 to $90 per hour, sometimes reaching six figures annually. "I work 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week," Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength. "That's 36 hours total, with 7 weeks of vacation time. Meanwhile, David works 60-hour weeks, sleeps at the office during crunch time, and still hasn't saved enough for a house down payment." The mathematics of success were suddenly, brutally clear. The woman's profession that his family had mocked was not only financially rewarding but offered a work-life balance that David's prestigious tech career couldn't match. The brother they'd dismissed was out-earning their golden child while working half the hours. The aftermath was immediate and uncomfortable. Relatives who had barely acknowledged Marcus for years suddenly became intensely interested in his career. Aunts and uncles who had once asked when he'd get a real job now peppered him with questions about the nursing field and whether their children should consider healthcare. But the newfound attention felt hollow and opportunistic. These same people had stood by while his achievements were minimized, had nodded along when his career was dismissed as inferior. Now they smiled too brightly, complimented too enthusiastically, and asked too many questions about his income. David and his parents, meanwhile, had retreated into wounded silence. They accused Marcus of deliberately showing off, of using his home to humiliate David. The irony was lost on them. For years, they had made Marcus feel small and inadequate, but now they claimed he was the one being cruel. The truth was simpler and more painful. Marcus hadn't set out to embarrass anyone. He had simply invited his family to see what he'd built through hard work and determination. Their shock and resentment revealed more about their own prejudices and assumptions than about his intentions. Standing in his den after everyone had left, Marcus reflected on the evening's events. The space that had filled him with pride now felt tainted by family drama and misunderstanding. He had achieved everything he'd worked for: financial success, professional respect, personal fulfillment, yet the people whose approval he'd once craved seemed incapable of offering genuine congratulations. The incident had exposed uncomfortable truths about his family's values and his own relationship with success. Was it wrong to feel satisfaction at proving them wrong? Had he been cruel to challenge their assumptions so directly? Or was he simply tired of being underestimated and dismissed? What do you think about Marcus's situation? Was he justified in setting the record straight about his career success, or did he cross a line by making his family uncomfortable? How would you handle being constantly underestimated by the people closest to you? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.